Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth questions about the town and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now it's Mayor Bob Hedlund.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode, another edition. Episode number 77, if I'm doing my math correctly. You are tuned in to Ask the Mayor. My name is Jim Melody. I'm your local resident, citizen advocate, and inquisitor. And as always, I am joined by the mayor of our town of Weymouth, Mr. Robert Hedlund. Robert.
Good to see you, Jim. It's been a long time.
Yeah. What people don't know is we tape 25 episodes at a time, Bob. So I sleep out overnight. I have a little cot behind that desk over there. And yes, you are stuck with me as unfortunately is your luck these days.
I got you for another 31 minutes.
Well, geez, Bob, if you showed up on time, I would have been out of here for 50 minutes ago.
That's true.
Here we go.
100 grand?
I'm Ed McMahon. Well, I can tell by, I'm sure everyone can tell at this point.
Ask a question and I'll do the talking.
I have the flu, and a lot of people do in this town. I hope everybody's staying as healthy as they can. Bob, this one is...
You keep coughing. You're going to transmit and inflict the whole town right through the camera.
And if you do, can I put in a plug for Health Express in Weymouth?
No.
Okay, because they're doing a phenomenal job. All right, Robert, our first question is regarding a homeless shelter from Susan Torres. Dear Mayor Bob, have you considered making a homeless shelter out of the Wharf Street building that is up for question? Father Bill's in Quincy is reducing its bed capacity. Homelessness is becoming epidemic, and we cannot ask people to take trains to Boston on freezing nights. Besides, Boston is filled to capacity. Isn't it time we did our fair share? What are your thoughts, Suzanne Torres?
So Suzanne, I know is an occasional questioner on the show, and she's a thoughtful person. She invests a lot of her time to be an informed citizen, attends meetings on a regular basis, and offers a lot of good input and a lot of good suggestions along the way. I think this is probably not one of them in the sense that you have a private owner. It is true he's looking to sell the property. It's currently not zoned for generally something like that unless they were to somehow structure their operation and utilize the Dover Amendment to get around our zoning to do that, and we would hope that that wouldn't occur. In anticipation of the owner selling, the district council, Councilor DeFazio down there has suggested, and we're in the process of creating an overlay for there that would give an option to create some residential there, utilizing the existing structure. In other words, repurpose what was an old shoe factory, kind of like what they did with Stetson, but residential. People thought it was a good idea because it's adjacent to the entrance to the commuter rail station. Planning department had a series of meetings on it, and for some reason the general consensus seems to be in the neighborhood that they will take their chances and live with an industrial use. We haven't got a lot of input where people have embraced the concept. So right now, Susan, I think it's going to remain industrial. The matter is still pending. I haven't withdrawn it, but I said from the beginning that I wasn't going to support this if it didn't have support in the neighborhood. And the only neighbors that have spoken up generally seem to want to take their chances and have another industrial use. So we don't know what Mr. Francer or who Mr. Francer will sell to. He's told me his intention is to sell this year. It may go on the market in the spring. I think he was counting on the change in zoning because it might make the property more valuable. And judging it as an industrial site, I don't think he's going to get any high-end industrial use down there. It's probably going to be some kind of a, storage facility or a, recycling type operation, a scrap metal or something like that. But that's what the neighbors say they're going to take their chances with. I'm disappointed in a way. I thought there'd be some support for this. I'm really agnostic on it because I grew up as an abutter down there, so I'm used to what's there. And I would hope if it remains industrial, it'll be the same kind of quiet, sleepy industrial use. It's a tough call. I mean, people fear change. Underneath that ugly sheathing is a beautiful building, I believe. I've been through the inside of it. It would make a great, repurposed kind of a residential cool loft type, place. But we haven't got the support, so we're not gonna force feed it down the neighborhood's throat without any support, and we haven't really seen much.
But is she theoretically asking that the town buy the building and convert it into a homeless shelter?
No, she suggested it be used. Yeah. She didn't. I don't think she suggested in her question how we get there. But the town's in no position to buy that.
Yeah,
no.
could you even if you wanted to? I mean,
well, we could if eminent domain. That's not something that obviously going to happen.
Right.
And depends if we want to get into the business of housing a homeless shelter, we'd have to purchase it from Mr. Francis.
Then the day, Bob.
By the way, I toured that inside of that building, Jim, and I found some graffiti on the wall.
You've referenced it. That's one of the few things I do recall from our many
it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
There was some graffiti on a wall referencing certain proclivities of a friend of yours.
No friend of mine. Moving forward, Bob, I was. I love your comment.
Former friend?
We're all every year we acquire new friends as we move forward. Bob, I have a question for you, and it's a same train of track as you know I like to say. I was at the on 3A where the Mary Lou's and Dunkin' Donuts is up by the hospital, and there was a homeless guy there for the first time ever at the red light with a sign soliciting cars, walking up and down through the traffic. You know, I lived in Manhattan for 10 years. It harkened back to my glory days of living in Harlem, and it struck me as unique in the sense I've never seen a homeless guy.
There was a guy
like
regularly at the CVS on Route 18 doing that.
So, what's the rules of the town?
Rumor has it that he was a bit of a scammer.
Oh, no kidding, on top of it all. But what is, I almost called the cops, to be honest with you. Is it legal for this guy to do this?
Years ago, there was a kid from North Weymouth that used to go over the bridge to Hingham and panhandle in front of Marshall's.
Okay.
He wasn't really homeless, but he...
Right, just trying to grab a buck.
That's what he did.
But what would the police response be if I called and said, "This is guy, he's in the flow of traffic"? I mean, it was dangerous on top of everything else.
They would have rousted him.
Yeah, okay, but it's not acceptable for somebody to be on the corner like that soliciting donations at lights. Is it in this town?
I can't speak for the police department on how they would specifically handle that, but I think at times people have been told to move along.
Okay, yeah, it certainly
we're
seemed out of
not
character.
exactly San Francisco yet.
Well, holy smokes, and thank goodness for that, needless to say. All right, Bobby, we're going to keep moving down the line. And
it's unbelievable. People don't realize. My niece was out in Santa Monica for college. It's unbelievable.
The amount of homeless.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm hearing the waste problem, the human waste issue is becoming very significant out there in San Francisco. I got the Tracy family from they're still there on Mount Vernon, and yes, a couple Tracys are out there, and they're saying the same thing. And this is all due to the changes in the legislature out there, which is a whole other conversation. All right, Bob, this one's called rubbish combining. When can the rubbish man dump rubbish and recyclables into the same truck? This happened on Friday on Blackstone Road. This was witnessed by my daughter and I, thanks, and that's from Ron. So why can the rubbish man dump rubbish and recyclables into the same truck?
Why? I don't know. I mean, we got a huge problem right now with the whole recyclable market. It's not the policy of our trash hauler to do that. There might be instances where they may have a truck down or something, and if it happens, I can tell you that it's extremely infrequent. But this is a complicated issue. And Mary, there's a great idea for another zone piece, because this is an ever evolving situation with our whole recycling scene. There's audits going on now of what goes into our recycling stream. And right now, the short version is that if our recycling stream is not contaminated, because they go to two different places, we have a set fee on our solid waste that we're locked in under our contract. But on the recycling side, we're penalized if if there's a high level of contaminants, basically because China's not taking so much stuff now, and what we used to be able to recycle, we can't anymore. And we send updates, and there's a lot of information. There's grants from the state for communities to inform. Our residents have seen the mailings. And it's complicated because it's changed. And people don't understand why it's changed if they don't read newspapers or follow things. It's changed because of what the world market has changed. And China is only, in developing countries who seek these recycled materials are only taking certain things now. Things that they were taking, they're not taking anymore. So we have to keep those out of the stream. If we're sending our recycled material that stays below a certain percentage of contaminants, we save money. When it exceeds, it actually costs us more money for the recycling stuff to be disposed of than the solid waste that goes in the brown barrel, believe it or not.
Yeah, wow.
So we have to be disciplined. For recycling now to work, we have to keep it contaminant free. No pizza boxes, no plastic bags, no clamshell takeout containers, that kind of thing. So we're monitoring that, and we know actually what routes. They actually monitor it when it's tipped.
Son of a
and
gun,
we trace it to the route, and we know what routes we have problems with. And we're generally doing a little better than some of the communities, other communities, but we have little pockets of neighborhoods where it's a real problem. In fact, we have one little neighborhood that's so bad that our trash hauler sends a separate truck to that neighborhood. And it's the only truck that goes to another facility that all their other trucks don't go to because they have a 30-something% compliance rate.
And do they have to actually separate all that stuff?
Our town compliance rate overall, I think, is in the 70%. For, there's roughly 30% contaminants getting in. We have one little pocket of a neighborhood where it's 70% contaminated.
Gun, huh?
There's no effort coming from that neighborhood.
Jeepers.
So we try to educate that neighborhood, and we try. You want me to say what neighborhood? No, I'm not going to do that.
I know, I want to know.
I'll be accused of something if I say
What
it.
zip code?
Huh?
Which zip code?
That's a good question. It's right on the line of two zip codes. I'm not sure. It's either 88 or 89. I'll leave it at that.
Hey, not 88.
Next question.
Well, Bob, I think it's worth reiterating because I'm one of those dumb buddies who maybe not be following the bouncing ball as well as I could. I know plastic bags are certainly,
That's been the case all along.
Okay, plastic bags, right.
Because people say, oh, it's plastic.
Right,
Oh,
yeah, what's the big whoop?
But it jams the machine.
But it's now pizza boxes and the clamshell
Well,
boxes.
actually, it's always been pizza boxes,
okay,
too.
Okay, I thought that's
But-
cardboard, that's a good thing.
But things that we used to throw in there, like plastic takeout containers.
Yeah, sure, that'd be good.
No go
Okay,
anymore, things like
stop
that.
that.
But watch for those mailings that come to your house, Jim.
Okay, and I try to for sure, but it's worth reiterating. And as you said, it keeps changing, and that's a challenge, obviously. All right, Bobby, this one is starts off with a hi. Hi, just curious if there are any plans in place for a skateboard BMX park. I think we've been talking about this since our first show. There were two places before, one at Pingree School and the other one at Stella Tyrrell Park, but both of those have been removed. I know a lot of fields have been redone, and there are two outdoor hockey rinks, but there's a lot of kids into skateboarding and BMX, and it seems like they've been left out. That's from our friend Roger. Thank you, Roger.
Good question. So there were some people, that turned we got a number of people in town that look for a cause, and when we did the work at Lovell, the loss of the skate park there became a cause, not just by people who used it, but people who were sympathetic to the people who used it and saw that as an opening to complain. And the complaints were so over the top, I just said I don't want to deal with it, put it on the back burner. But we've had some responsible skateboarders approach us, and they've been organizing some meetings, and we have done some conceptual design work because on one hand, I was aggravated with some of those folks, but on the other hand, there was a promise made by the previous administration that if that park were to go away, there would be an alternative sought. So we're trying to honor that, and we have actually spent a little money with some design and conceptual work. We have had a couple of responsible skateboarders approach us, and they have been organizing some other responsible skateboarders to meet with us, people who actually you can have a dialogue with. And I think there were some people that enjoyed complaining more than they actually enjoyed skating, okay? But we have a good group we're working with, and we think we have a site identified, and we have asked that group to go meet with that district councilor and a neighborhood group there, because for it to happen, you know, they're going to need to get approval from the council and obviously get support from neighbors to support it and not resist it for that to happen. So that's the stage we're in right now.
Bob, it says there's two indoor, two street hockey rinks. I know one's at Stella Terrell.
No, they're outdoor.
Outdoor, I'm sorry. One's at Stella Terrell. Where's the other one? The one at Union Point?
Right next to it at Stella Terrell.
Oh, they're side by, they're considered next door, okay.
Near the Broad Street Fire Station.
Is the one on Union Point still active? I remember that was big doings when that first dropped onto the
I think
map.
it's still
I don't
there.
think I've ever, it's there, I just don't ever see anyone
Yeah.
using it anymore.
Well, it's out of the way,
Well,
obviously.
yeah, but that certainly was
So
being used
I
when it
think
first
you'll
opened.
hear more on that, and I would encourage, if he's interested in that, I don't have the contact information
this is our friend
for the
Roger.
group that's been formed, but if he can't find them through social media, if he wants to call the recreation department, they can pass along the contact information for the group that's advocating for the park and working with us.
Sure. And perhaps when Pratt Library comes down, you can put it there, maybe, and let these guys Mary can learn how to skateboard, perhaps, and it's a win-win. Okay, we're gonna keep moving on, Bob. This one is from our good friend Ed Hartnett, and it is regarding pigging, which I don't think I've ever seen
What?
used as a verb. Pigging is the title. And it says, hello, Mayor Bob and Jim. Don't fear the Reaper melody. You must know about your concert history. I was curious if you have ever heard about pigging.
Who did Don't Fear the Reaper, Jim?
The Boys Occult, of course, your favorite.
What was the name of the album, Jim?
Listen, we're going to get away from this quickly. What do you think about
Danny Miranda.
What do
Danny
you-
Miranda.
What do you think about Aerosmith kicking Joey Kramer out of the band? Speaking of drummers, for heaven's sakes. All right, let's get back to pigging, because I certainly have never heard of it. I was curious if you have ever heard about pigging. It is not about raising pigs. It is a process used in cleaning out pipes like our sewer pipes. It cleans out the sediment so there is better flow. Do you know if the town operates this type of machinery in town? Does the town have this type of process to clean out the sewers or use another type of vacuum service? Does the low bid, I better put my glasses on for this one. Does the tow bid this operation out to a company? Does the town, it must be. Does the town bid this operation out to a company? Do we not use it because of the high cost of operating machinery? Have you looked into it and found it unnecessary for the town or repetitive process already being used in town? Thank you, Ed Hartnett. Are you familiar with pigging, Robert?
Yes, so the town, and I don't remember when it exactly was, it could have preceded me taking office, but the town invested, and I know the vehicle and the equipment is very new, so it's either just before my arrival or after my arrival, I believe after, I believe before, but invested in a vacuum truck that he describes.
So we own one now.
State of the art, and I know it gets used a lot because I see it in action. And I believe it has been cost effective for the town to operate it as opposed to hire, an outside vendor to do that kind of work. And it's often used, on an emergency basis too, so it makes sense having it in-house. There's other similar type of work, by the way, that we contract out. For instance, on sewer lines, often we have some maintenance work done, and there was some controversy a few years ago when there was some steam released in North Weymouth, and the neighbors felt they weren't properly notified. There was a whole issue there. But generally, not generally, but neighbors are notified when that kind of work goes on. But yes, Ed's question is great. And I'm surprised because Ed Hartnett is one of the more observant people we have based on his questions. He appears to be extremely observant. I'm shocked Ed has not seen that truck in action.
Well, son of a
Because
gun.
he's usually got his eye on everything that's happening around town.
Bob, is he talking about the sewer pipes or the 5-footers, right? The jumbo ones? Is that
Jim,
what he's talking about?
It's a 10-wheeler with a giant round tank on the back with all kinds of vacuum equipment on it.
And it goes into those huge pipes, or those 5-foot pipes?
Yeah, they would hook some heavy lines
Jeez.
and hook onto the sewer pipes.
Well, listen, we're getting to the end of another episode of Ask the Mayor, and we want again to ask everybody to keep their questions coming into askmayorbob@gmail.com. Bob, because it is the new year and we have a new police chief, Captain Fuller, or Chief Fuller, has now started on the job, and how's things going at the police department is a question that came as I was
Great,
coming to
he was
the door.
on the job for a couple of days and he took off and he's been gone since. So we haven't missed him yet.
Welcome to the new job. On vacation or professional?
No, he was chosen for an exclusive FBI training program, intensive,
Wow.
in-house. He has to go down there and bunk in a dormitory for a while and go through some really
No kidding,
high-end. Yeah, it's a highly sought-after placement, and I think that former Chief Grimes played a little bit of a role in that with some connections that he had. But Captain Fuller, now Chief Fuller, was chosen for that. He's down there.
Any particular area of expertise he's working on, or just all kinds of stuff?
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of different FBI
Yeah.
significant training stuff. So it'll be an asset for the town to have that, have him have that experience. The command staff, is pretty much the same command staff that existed under Chief Grimes, and they've been, functioning fine in his absence.
Outstanding. Wow. That sounds exciting. The FBI, and what is that, Quantico?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
So Captain Phillips has been more or less in charge, in his absence.
Who's a good man, and I'm sure doing a great job.
But I mean, the whole command staff's great, and they've been working together.
Bob, I'm going to try to squeeze one more in here before we lose our final episode, or the final question of this episode, and it is from our buddy Ed Hartnett, and it's regarding recycling. I have been reading some news about several communities seriously thinking about dropping their recycling program due to the cost and low return. Is this something the town of Weymouth is considering doing? My concern is what will happen to the yellow top barrels. Will they be turned into regular trash barrels? I myself favor recycling. Perhaps you can look at the numbers and see our situation. I know you just commented on
This is
what's
kind
going
of
on in that.
It wasn't a redundant question, but I veered off into this, obviously.
Yeah.
So just reiterating what I said before for the most part, but I'm not sure what communities have done that, but
haven't
there
heard
are
any.
instances. It's funny, I just had a long conversation with an acquaintance of mine who actually runs a landfill in Miami, South Florida. And right now, everything's going in there to the same landfill. And that is happening. It's not happening with our trash. So our recyclables, for the most part, are still getting recycled. It's just that issue I talked about before about what the percentage of contaminants are.
Could you ever see a situation where we drop that program?
We hope not to. I mean, we
okay.
hope that the recycling market comes back, but it's a mess right now. It's a huge national problem, international problem. And I mean, for instance, on glass, one of the things that goes into your recycling bin that's pretty much unfeasible is glass, and we worry about when that's going to. There's only one glass recycling manufacturer type operation in the entire state, and you've got stockpiles of plastic bottles. You've got crushed, compacted plastic bottles at some of these centers. The secondary market's not great. It's a huge problem. I don't know if that's happening here. There's other areas around the country, maybe in the state, where that is happening, but it's becoming more and more costly to handle recyclable material.
Okay, well, Ed, hold on to that yellow trash barrel for right now, the recyclables, and for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, right now,
Status quo.
right now, if you're a Weymouth taxpayer, it makes sense for you to properly sort your recyclables, because it makes economic sense for us to have clean recyclables still going out and reducing what goes into our main waste stream. But if you're contaminating our recyclables, then you're costing us more money than the solid waste. That's the short version.
And we don't like to see that, needless to say. Well, Bob, it looks like we're going to
And by the way, we're subsidizing, the trash fee. Braintree is looking at yearly trash fee increases soon, and we're holding the line. And we don't want to. If the recycling stuff gets out of control, that's going to be an alternative for people here. So it's in your self-interest to be disciplined with the recycling.
So a word to the wise for all our good friends out there in Weymouth watching our show. Bob, looks like we're going to have to wrap up this episode again.
Did you bring that fly with you?
I don't know. A fly in January. That's something for sure. Perhaps spring is. That's like the Weymouth groundhog. This is Puxatunky Phil. It's Weymouth fly guy. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for the courtship of Eddie's father. Bob, any father?
Bill Bixby, right?
Of course.
I never liked that show.
People, let me tell you about my best friend. Thank you,
Get
Mary.
a shot of that, please.
All right.
Hey, stay healthy.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.
She's my